Hi, welcome everyone to another KabU Q&A event. I see some of you have your cameras on. If you are able to turn on your webcam, that really helps us to connect because that point of connection comes from opening our hearts. So it's much easier to do that if we can see and feel each other. And welcome back to some of you who I see have returned from the morning session. Before we get started, I just want to cover a few things about asking questions. If you're in Zoom, you can simply raise your hand with the hand icon and we'll call on you to ask a live question. If you don't want to ask your question live, you're welcome to type that in the chat and our expert tech team will make sure that I get that so we can ask your question. You can also ask questions if you're on Facebook and YouTube viewing. Just type your question and our tech team will make sure that we get it here. And I see David was here about 20 in advance of the hour, so he's well prepared, and I see he has a question already. But first, let me introduce a senior teacher and student of Qabalah for well over 30 years, man of multiple talents, completely dedicated to you, as you know, and all of his students, Tony.
And among my talents are juggling. Watch this. No, it's not. Yeah, let me get a picture of where we are. I'd like to get this sense of it before we start. Who was here in the morning? Yeah, David, you're always here. You don't count. Okay. Good. And who is here for the first time? Keep your hand up. I'm flipping pages. Good. Thank you. Hi, Annalie. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you, Melody. Yeah, so if you can, please turn your camera on. I need to get a sensation of what you're really asking, and I need all the clues that I can get. Sometimes we're asked questions, we don't really know what it is that we're asking, and and the question comes out between us. So the more that I can feel what you need, the better. For the people who are here for the first time, this is the first opportunity that we have, or you may have, other than the chat and communications that you've had with the friends who are helping with all of this. And by the way, I want you to know that there's a big team that is running all this. They're students like you. They just came here a little before you, and they're volunteers. They're dedicating their time to make certain that what they got, they're passing on to other people. And it's a lot of work for them. It's a lot of technical work. We do 2 of these in a day, and they get up very early in the morning. They prepare everything. They pass it on. They've got like tremendous teamwork going, and they are the connection that allows all of this to happen. So I want you to know that, and I want to thank them all. We have people on screen here, and we also have people joining us on YouTube and on Facebook, and we're taking questions from all, but your questions are the priority. And since you've been studying, I'm sure that lots of things have come up. Questions have come up for you in the study, or even prior to the study, or just what's going on with the world. But let's try to make these questions as focused as we can about Kabbalah and about what you've learned and what has you confused, or what you'd like to open up. And with that, let's get going. Let's start.
Okay, great. So David, I'm very much looking forward to your question. Go ahead, you can start us off today.
Hi, Tony. I was just wondering, how can we help each other?
Well, are you still in a lockdown where you live?
They just opened up my business 3 days ago, so The economy is reopening now. Yeah.
Okay, so well, we had a real example of the question of how we help each other during these past 3 months, because we were unable to get our hands and feet anywhere other than, you know, our own places or maybe the grocery store. And yet it's not that people didn't have needs. But it gave us an example of how we can actually, where we need to focus in order to truly help people, because the actions that we take are not really the help. The actions are the result of a desire. Everything follows from that. All the good and all the mistakes follow from the quality of the desire. How we can help each other is according to that example that we received. What are we thinking about them? The work that we're doing here, learning, and what we desire for ourselves, we need to desire for them. If that's the impetus of why we want to help, then help comes. If we don't have that impetus and that intention, that first it happens in the heart, then it doesn't matter what actions we take, they're ultimately destructive actions. I mean, when you look at the world and all the things that should go right with the world, given how much we know about science, all of the helping activities that we do, and still we're basically destroying the world. You know, so this last 3 months has been a primer in the basics of where everything needs to begin. If you do this work with your heart in the study, and you're aiming it towards other people, that's truly help for them. Okay.
Hey, next we have another live question, Tony. Melody Land, we'd love to hear your question, Melody.
Thank you. Yeah, I've just been studying about free will. I just finished the 2 sessions on free will. It seems to me that we have very little control over our circumstances. And to me, this appears much like fatalism or predestination. Can you please explain, Tony, a little more about the part of our existence where we actually have the capability of exercising our free will, and how do we do this?
Our free will actually consists of our agreement with the law of nature. The law of nature is omnipotent. It is everything. There is nothing besides that. So what it determines and what it desires for us is what occurs. But there's an entire plan of evolution that involves us, which is all about our being able to see and feel that, and to come to a place where we're synchronized with that, where we also choose the same thing, because actually we're part of that law of nature. It's not like there's us and it and we don't have any free will. No, there is only it, and then there is our disagreement with what we are. So are you catching the subtlety of the difference here? You're not separate from the law of nature. What it determines is really what you are and what is best for you, and it's actually you choosing whether to accept this or not. It's not stopping us. It actually, when the choice is made, it is absolute freedom for us, because we become one and the same thing as the guiding force behind everything. There's no more free will than that. But to begin with, to even catch the edges of what free will is, we have to place ourselves in an environment in which we can begin to feel what is our will about? What is my will? What is my nature? And what is the nature of the law of nature? Because without having those two things, there's no comparison and there can be no choice. Right now, we may think it's a philosophy like determinism, but it's not. It's what you're talking about really, and where we all are when we begin, is it's like a monopole. There is no choice when you have no comparison. All we have is this self-focused human nature, and in that there is no choice. We're robots. We're servants of the will to receive. What the process of nature wants to do is it wants to free us from that little box, from that prison. So really everything is free will when we come to agree with and accept what's called the kingdom of heaven, which in other words is the law of nature. I would like to could you read Annalee's question, please? Because she's a friend, and I know that there's some things going on, and we're in contact, and I want to hear what her question is and help her with it.
Okay, sure will, Tony. According to Kabbalah, why does the Creator send us very serious illnesses? Is it because we deserve it as a punishment, and that those who get critically wounded or very ill are supposedly the bad souls or worse souls in comparison to others?
It's actually the other way around. Those whom the Creator gives them the experience of resistance when they have some sense of wanting to reach faith, that is, to be able to see what's there as good that does good. These are the souls that are most loved. There is no such thing as punishment. There aren't bad souls. There are either unevolved souls, souls that are evolving, that have begun evolving, and evolved souls that are on some degree of spirituality. The process of illness is something that we all share. We are all ill. And to somebody but we get it in mild doses. But in order to correct ourselves, we have to understand, we need a correct diagnosis. We need to understand what it is that we need to correct. And it has to do with our faith in the sense of being able to experience beyond the apparent limitations. So again, it's those that are the closest and the most desired, so to speak, by the law of nature, by the Creator, that receive that type of intensive training, like a speed course.
Okay, let's go back to live questions. We have Willie Starks here. Go ahead, Willie.
Yes, Tony.
Hi, Willie.
Hi. My question is, what is the difference in the reforming light and the reflected light? And really, I have a three-part question if we got time, but that's the first part.
Okay, ask the third part.
Okay, the second part and the third. Second part is, do we receive both of these lights in our 10? And the third part is anything we do to draw both of these lights, if they are different or the same? Thank you.
Thanks, Willie. The reforming light is the response of the Creator. It is the response to our efforts, and our efforts in towards spirituality, towards the integral connection between everybody, is called reflected light, or Hasidim. In other words, we stop thinking about ourselves, and whatever it is that we receive, it's really in our prayer and so on, our thoughts and the direction of our intention is for the connection with others in the 10. It's to their benefit. Help my friends succeed. We're like a spokesman speaking to the Creator in our heart. Not really speaking, but on behalf of the well-being of that system of the 10, of other people. That is reflected light. We don't take it in. We receive it only in order to fulfill them. And those two things actually are what creates the response. The light that reforms is the Creator's response, which is actually us becoming like the Creator, and that light allows us to feel it. And it also is the thing that closes the gap, because we don't have the ability to do any of that, because as long as we are being educated, we think of ourselves to some degree and mostly as individuals. That's not correct. That's not right. We are that general field of the 10. We are that shared mind-heart. We are the integral system. We are a single creature. So the degree to which, and we can't really pull ourselves out. So if we begin to perceive differently inside of the 10, it's because, and see ourselves and identify ourselves with the others, that's the result of the reforming light. That's the act of the Creator on the vessel of the 10. Good question.
We have another live question here from Eli Hasney. Eli, love to hear your question.
Yes, thank you. From a Kabbalistic point of view, what is the balance between emotion and intellect in life? Dr. Lightman, as I know him so far, is very intellectual, but the wisdom of Kabbalah itself is more engaging in my emotions. Can you simply give us a good percentage of both?
A good what?
A percentage of emotion and
Oh,
intellect.
percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the intellectual part of it is only to exhaust reason, to realize that you come to the end of philosophizing or grasping within the human intellect anything that has to do with that is really connected to the work. I wouldn't call it emotional. It's really something that has to do with the heart, but you can call it emotion. It is 100% that. The only purpose of using the vast detail that's in Kabbalah is for us to reach a point where we just give up on that, because attainment never comes through that type of intellectual understanding. You have to come to despair of that. On the other hand, you don't lose what you know, and we are creatures and we have bearings. We have to be able to triangulate in a world, and our survival, individual survival, has to do with our intellect, and our intellect comes from our ego. Since the goal of Kabbalah is to exit the ego, how much can it really have to do with it? It's a shell. Like imagine yourself as a chick, and you have to pick your way out of the shell. The shell is still there, but you're out of it. And now you are a complete creature, and the intellect is that shell. Because the intellect is basically the judgment between good and bad. That's really what it is, good and bad for me.
Okay, thank you for your question, Eli. Next, we're going to Aldo Acosta here in Zoom, who also wants to ask a live question. Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Aldo, you can ask your question live now if you'd like.
Yo, Aldo. Okay, let's move on, then maybe he'll figure out how to do it.
Okay, he was vacillating whether to ask live or type his question, so I'm sure we'll hear from him soon. Next question is also a live question. Francis here in Zoom, you're up next.
We see you, Francis. Let's see if we can hear you.
The mic is not connected. He has no mic.
Okay. Well, write your question out then. Let me guess what your question is. No, go ahead.
Okay, so let's go to a few questions from YouTube viewers. There's actually 3 viewers that have very similar questions about what happens to us after death. Do we remember this life that we've lived here? Is there some kind of paranormal activity where you can communicate with the soul of a dead person? And if someone reincarnates, is there some kind of phenomena that's possible? So what is this whole process of the soul, the death? Do we remember this life? Can people communicate with us in the next life? That's the gist of these 3 questions.
We don't remember anything because we don't need it. It doesn't serve anything. There is no afterlife and no place to communicate with, because the transition between states is pretty much instantaneous. The mind and the experiences of the ego are not what's remembered. What is retained in the developing soul is how much development there is of the will to bestow. How much have we progressed out of the ego? And that's what's sort of retained in the seed, in the DNA of the next stage that we go through. And we continue from there. Our personal identities are of no meaning at all in that realm, because we're trying to work above them. And it's not about having another egoistic experience and another egoistic experience. Rather, nature is developing us out of that. Rabash, Baruch Ashlag, the Kabbalist teacher of our teacher, Rav Lightman, said that between one life and another, it's just like changing a shirt. And in that dressing, I suppose, is everything. A completely new mantle for the purpose of continuing to evolve towards spirituality. So all of this stuff about contacting spirits and all that, this is all things related to the ego, and spirituality doesn't have anything to do with that. These are all echoes of our egoistic desires.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Let's come back to Zoom. We have a live question from Jordan Rennert, excuse me. Jordan?
Hello.
Hi, Jordan.
Hey, Tony. I have an interesting question from...
Well, I hope so.
I've been going to a lot of the protests here in Los Angeles, and in the back of my brain, I remembered hearing something from Rev Lightman about how he had held a conference, I guess at the beginning of coronavirus, and felt as if he was positive that, there wouldn't be a mass spreading because of this concept that when people are all together in a, unified mass connecting for like a cause for each other over themselves, there is no chance of coronavirus spreading. And I've been kind of going to protest with that in the back of my mind, and I'm left thinking, did I create that? I've been fine. I've never, nothing came down. I'm just curious what your thought is in that regards. If everybody comes together at a protest and they're fighting for each other, is there freedom from coronavirus?
Well, I don't think that that's what Rav said. What Rav said is that if we actually get to a place where we are connecting for connection's sake, if we begin to understand the message of the coronavirus, there will be no need for that virus, and that form of pushing from, and as example by nature, will disappear, and you won't get sick. Whether or not protests, to me, protests are not that. Protests are the use of the belief in the political force and the agency of man to make changes on a level below what Rav is talking about. He's talking about the forces that manage this level, that will make those changes, where you don't have to go out into the street, where it doesn't have to be some type of a political approach. The change happens just through the correct response to nature, the healing of the things that, of brutality or of extreme selfishness or the destruction of the environment, those things cannot be fixed by the kinds of actions that we're used to. They could to a certain degree over certain periods of history, but that's gone now. The only thing that is going to change that is the connection to the upper force. The thing that we want to achieve by going into the street, it's a good thing, but it's not accomplishable that way. It's only accomplishable by becoming a conduit for the light and the law of nature, and by becoming like the law of nature. Direct action is just, our ideas. What we need to do is we need to act like the upper law. Then that all trickles down, and all of that stuff becomes repaired. It becomes corrected. But to go back to the beginning of your question, there's a likelihood that that taking an action like that could be protective, but I wouldn't count on it. The Kabbalists tell us that not to depend on miracles at all, but to go according to everything that we know, and for us to be honest about where we are in our development to the degree that we can, because we hardly ever know. But we do know also that the doctor is given permission to heal. That's a force from above. So we should take medicine into account, and we should listen to science as well.
Okay,
And
next.
stay well.
And next question, Fanny, great to see you. Please, we'd love to hear your question.
Hello, good afternoon. I have a question. Is equivalence of form is the same as dvekut? And how does it feel to be in a state of dvekut, adhesion?
Yeah, it is the same. Equivalence is like clinging. It's an embrace, meaning that our heart is the same. We want the same thing. We share a similar desire, an identical desire. What it feels like at any given point is different. And the ultimate cleaving to the law of nature is when your heart is exactly where you have an attitude that is towards all of creation that is the same as the law of nature. What does that feel like? Spectacular, good, loving, all-embracing, confidence. Anything is possible. Everything is perceived as good. Now, don't take that exactly literally, because the details of that, according to the development of your heart, will be different. And it's beyond anyone's ability to describe such a thing to another person. But we get tastes of it, in the work. You get a taste of it, feeling of confidence. It's a special kind of confidence, though. It's not like, I'm going to succeed in this particular, I'm going to sell this vacuum cleaner at the door. No, it's, that life will succeed, that everything is really good and beautiful, something along those lines.
Okay, Tony.
Wait a minute, she's trying to follow up?
Okay, sorry.
No?
No? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Here.
There you
Is
go.
it like feeling like safe, secure?
Maybe. Like I said, I can't really describe what it is that would be most fulfilling and confident for you. Maybe that's the form that confidence takes for you. But it's not simple confidence. It is that we are connected to the force that is like the Creator through our connection with other people, and we see it. It's like a reality for us. It's a different reality for us, a better, more complete reality. But if I go any further, you'll think, well, I haven't felt exactly what he said, and then you'll dismiss whatever things, are served to you.
Okay, Tony, we're going to try to go back to Aldo. You're welcome to ask your question live now, Aldo.
Hi, my name is Aldo, and I want to make a question. I read that Abraham wrote the Sefer Yetzirah, and the Sefer Yetzirah include all the teachings of Abraham, like the uses of Hebrew letters, names of God, and other teachings. And
Aldo,
I want to
Aldo,
know if the
Aldo, I'm very sorry, but you're cutting out. Your internet connection is weak and it's skipping, and I can't make out your question.
Tony, we have it written here as well.
Okay.
I'll be happy to read it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my name is Aldo Acosta from Lima, Peru. I'm a student in week 2. Are the meditation of Hebrew letters and names of gods shared in the Sefer Yetzirah and the Arizal compatible with the teaching of Baal HaSalam?
Okay. Well, first of all, what the Ari wrote and the other source that you mentioned, they're not meditations. These are states. They're inner states. They are names of God. In other words, they are certain conditions of the creature that are experienced in the process of correction. There's no meditation. There is no meditation. Because we don't take ourselves out of the engagement with all of reality. The whole process, the Kabbalistic process, is the complete interconnection with all of reality. It's a waking engagement that eventually connects us to absolutely everything in reality. Meditation is a thing in which a person abstracts. They take themselves out and they reduce their connection. They reduce their involvement, and they reduce their desire, but through limitation. Things happen. Phenomena, experiences happen that way, but they're not the experience of the movement towards spirituality. They are they move us towards lower levels of engagement with the law of nature on an instinctive level. That's like a plant or like a rock, but not like the speaking level, which is completely conscious and choosing every moment, just as it's the Creator's privilege, his quality, the quality of giving, to constantly choose to give, and nothing prevents that. That's the thing that we're trying to reach. Meditation goes in the other direction. And anybody who says or interprets that's stuff that, the Arizal's words in that way, it does not have the benefit of an actual teacher from the teaching lineage of Qabalah. They're kind of relating it to other things and sort of making it up. Okay?
Okay, next question comes from a viewer on YouTube, Susan Trainer. Hi, Tony. You are blowing me away with the Kabbyu course. I am still absorbing, but I'm curious about the significance of 1995 when this material became open for our learning. Could you expand on that a little bit more, please?
Well, I can't say that I completely understand the calculation that was 1995. Bala Salam is the one who said that would be the time. And he took that out of the Zohar. I don't understand exactly what the basis of it is, but I can tell you that experientially, I agree that that's exactly what happened. As I recall my experience, and perhaps you do too, in terms of the constant advancement through the ego, everything was like cooking along, through the half of the 20th century, actually from the beginning of the 20th century. But you really see this acceleration of all kinds of technology and egoistic forms of business that went into excess, and it seemed like it could expand and expand and expand, and we became wealthier and greedier and more exploitive and all of that, and it seemed like this would never end. And then all of a sudden, bang, at a certain point, that all stopped, and we started to have all of these other sorts of problems. And it felt to me like around 1995, the direction of the energy completely changed, and then it stopped moving. By the time we got to the new century, a few years into the new century, it was crisis upon crisis upon crisis, and we kept pushing, using exactly the same form, thinking that the same force was developing us, but it wasn't. And every time we used it to push forward, we'd get a crisis coming back. So that's just as a witness, that's what happened. And what is being spoken about are cycles in nature, and that being how nature is developing or evolving humanity, and the way that we see it is through human society, not so much through the individual, but what's the state of our societies? What's human culture actually like? What do we care about? What are our ideals? It was like the world ended in 1995, in the sense that force was no longer usable. Some other force is there. We don't recognize it. We don't know how to use it. We think there's nothing there, but there definitely is. And this is what you're here to learn. What is that new force of development, and how do we align with that? What do we build now? What is human society going to look like? All the things that people are out in the street looking for, that they're coming. That change is coming. And that's why we feel this sort of void, this fog. It's because the direction has changed into altruism, or into complete interconnection, experiencing the whole, self with the whole. And the adaptation that's required it's a deep adaptation. It takes time and it takes education. You're at the right school, and once you learn this, you need to share it. Not so much directly as Qabalah, but how you adapt to it, what the importance of connection is, the importance of stopping to think about yourself first, and all of that. Well, that's what 1995 is all about. Okay?
Okay, next we have a live question from Else. Lovely to see you, Else. Please, we'd love to hear your question.
Yes. Hello, nice to see you, Tony.
Hi.
I heard you say today the soul is above the body, but I thought, isn't the soul also in our hearts?
Yeah, but what are you calling a heart? This is a matter of defining terms. Above the body means outside of the ego. The degree to which we are not using the ego, and our intention is for others and into the objective state, which is the law of nature, or the creator's quality. That's the degree of soul that we have. And also the degree of connection that we have is also outside of the individual, because it's between you and others. It's a force between. That's where soul exists. So if you say, my heart, my friends are my heart, yeah, then it's in your heart. But if we're saying my heart and my emotions and all that, that's not a heart. That's stone. So what we're trying to learn is the way to exit that and to identify with the connection and the big interconnection between all of us. But in the first place, within a group of 10, and do you have a 10 now? What level are you at in Kabu?
Week 2.
Okay, so eventually, as you go to other semesters, if you enjoy it and you stay in there, you'll get the opportunity to work with other people who have exactly the same goal as you do, and are aimed at experiencing that and giving to the integral quality shared between people. That's where the soul is. The others are actually our soul. We don't have soul. The soul exists between us and others. Thank you.
Okay, Tony, next up we have William N. Very good to see you, William. Go ahead.
Oh,
Hello.
hi, Tony. How are you?
Good.
Okay. So I have actually two questions. So if you can allow me to ask the two. And for the first one, I'm going to read a passage real quick, please, from Kabbalah Revealed. Chapter is Whose Reality is Reality. So, okay, I read that real quick and then ask my question. So at the 112, it says, so the only problem is to change the intention with which we use our desire. But for that to happen, we must see at least one other way of using our desire. We need an example of what other intention look or feel like. That way, we will at least be able to decide whether we want it or not. When we see no other way of using our desire, we are trapped in the one we already have. And couple of line later, it talks about like the way to do that is to use the reshimo, which is like some kind of the memory of the path that the ascending or descending path. So my question is like, how do I use that reshimo? I feel like I don't have no memories of where I'm coming from, or a memory that can help me see another way of desire for me to change my desire, because right now I just have egoistic desire. So I don't know about altruistic one. So that's my first question. So should I ask the second question, or
no? That is a mighty question, and you asked it in the right way too, because having a quote like that is really helpful. Because we're talking about the same thing when we talk about a quote. What the quote is describing is a mechanism of that nature uses to evolve us, to awaken us. In other words, there's no perception unless that you have an opposite. You have to be presented with something that through which you can compare, and then you get a sense both of, in this case, what your own intention is, and what the other possibility of intention is, and then now you have a perception. Now this is not, these reshimo are not like personal little bubbles that come up in our memory. They are things that are presented to us in the learning, in the path of the work that we're doing. And they are experiential, and that's the way nature works anyway. What Qabalah is trying to teach us to do is to recognize that once you have a goal, first of all, to have a goal, you have to have a good target. So first, Qabalah, through its texts and through the teachers and so on, presents us with a goal, which is bestowal. What's bestowal? What is the opposite of the kind of intention that I have? Do I feel that way? Well, if I think I'm in some way bestowing, then I haven't quite got the target. We have to come to the point where we begin to realize I'm not like that. I'm actually not like that. If I really look at what I want, what I think, why I'm really doing something, I see I'm different than that. Now, so nature has presented you with the book, with this environment where you're beginning to learn, where you're being presented with a completely opposite reason for desire. That's the intention. And now you start to examine where you are. And nature will again provide another, a higher example. And then you will compare to that. They're not coming out of your personal memories. They're coming out of the collective and the general direction that nature has in order to evolve you. That's a process in nature itself. It's not personal. It is the opposite of personal. Everything that you feel now is personal, and you're trying to understand and experience it inside the self. What this is describing, what that passage describes, is the evolution outside of that. and understanding how nature works with us. And it works by giving us things that we think are good. And when it presents us with a new example of that's opposite to us, we experience it as bad, but it's really good, because the next step for us is to rise to that level through the comparison and so on. And we actually accomplish that level, and then it goes further and further and further. It was always doing that with us, except instead of understanding the process and being engaged in the work consciously, we were unconscious, and we suffered as a result of that. We thought, oh, another blow, another, I'm bad, I'm this. No. No, all of these things are guiding us and opening it as long as we understand the process that nature uses to evolve us. It's a complex question, and it's a long answer, so I hold on to your next one, and I'm gonna move on to another. Great question, though.
Okay, Tony, let's go to a question from someone watching on YouTube. This comes from Samuel Lima. Religion teaches that God is inside of us. What does Kabbalah teach? Is the creator inside, outside, or is he us?
None of the above, or none of the below. The creator is everything. And the creator is not in us. The force that we call the creator is between us. We are in the creator, but we're in the creator as an opposite quality. That's how the creature is made. By the restriction of the creator's all-encompassing, all-being, so to speak, unbounded quality, a restriction is made in the form of what we experience as our egoism or our desire to receive. That creates a boundary, and that boundary, the line between his quality and the quality in our nature, creates what is felt by us as an individual entity. The creator is the whole field in which all of this is occurring. It cannot be located any place, because it's a law. It is the good guidance of everything on every level. And the whole process is to get us to come to agree with that, to understand that law, and to become like it, not within myself, but between me and you. What exists between me and you, that's where the creator can appear or not, in a sense. I mean, that's where the intention between us can be a good one, where you are lifting me with your question, I'm trying to lift you with an answer, and that's because we are intimately engaged on the most important, valuable, and greatest thing that can exist between people, which is the answer to both the need that you have and the possibility that an answer could come, and through it we allow this to happen between us. That's the creator. Make that noise.
I heard you.
No.
Spoke to you. Okay, we're gonna have some fun. If you've been here before, you know what's up. If you're new, what a blitz is, Tony has 3 minutes to answer as many questions as possible, or it's going to be short form. And each time we try to set a new record, we have 125. Tony, if you answer them all, full attainment. It just takes 3 minutes. Okay, ready when you are.
Go.
Let's do it. What is the difference between Lirianic teachings and the Toledo teachings?
I don't know what that second one is.
My question is this: is the life activation and galactic activation offered at the Modern Mystery School's Kabbalah program helpful with the study of Kabbalah?
No, it is not.
What does Kabbalah say about life on other planets?
There's only one life.
Kabbalah doesn't talk about aliens existing in our world, only spiritual beings. What does Kabbalah say about this?
There is only one life.
How do you know you are in a reflecting light after you have reacted to something?
reflected light is sharing the same quality as the Creator has for you. It's not accepting the light in, it's giving it back in order to fulfill the desire of the law of nature to fulfill you.
From Francesca, what is love? Is it a fulfillment?
It's a bridge over hate.
Javier, how is it to see or to be in the world of causes?
It's to love people and to act on their behalf.
How do we discover the attributes of the Creator so that we can emulate them?
By working with other people and overcoming our resistances and judgment of others.
When we enter the spiritual world, do we completely lose the ego?
No, we need the ego in order for the comparison and in order to give pleasure to the law of nature.
Can you clarify the concepts of crossing the Maxim and Arvut?
Arvut is the complete guarantee for the fulfillment and an attainment of everybody. Crossing the Maxim is the beginning of that work.
Can I bestow to the corporeal world?
Yeah, and they'll rip you off.
What is the concept and purpose of reincarnation?
It is to forget what you know and to go forward on faith above reason.
We are conscious. How do we keep this consciousness after death?
This is not consciousness. This is death.
Are we all connected? If so, can we communicate without words?
We do communicate without words. Got it?
What is fate? Can we influence it?
We do, in a sense, by responding to the way that we are being developed. Everything is planned. We either accept it or we don't accept it, and when we accept it, we're free.
Is the current crisis the being of our birth from 1.0 to 2.0 a new humanity?
Yeah, you could say that, and you did.
If we know what our purpose is, how can we use Kabbalah to help us to achieve it instead of working in a job that makes us unhappy because we need it for our livelihood?
We don't need anything for our livelihood except to support others. Everything will be given to us through nature, and Kabbalah does not deal with employment.
What does a physical body play other than housing the will to receive?
It doesn't. The will to receive projects the body. There is no body.
Why can't meditation be a way to annul that box with 5 holes in it, the 5 senses, in other words?
Because it puts us into ourselves instead of out of ourselves.
Time. I think that tied your all-time record, 19. I say full attainment at 19.
Oh, thank you. I'll take that to the bank.
Okay. Good job. Okay. If you want more extended answers to these questions, of course, if you're in Kabbalah Revealed 1 and 2, you can take these questions to the forum. Okay, next question. Fanny has another live question.
Yeah, something that I would like to share, maybe. I get this feeling that when we receive something good in the corporal life, it is a trick for the ego. I would like to know how to deal with that. Like, I feel that the ego is just attached and is really happy. So how you get rid of that? How you deal with that?
Well, you're right that actually the good things that happen to us are maybe more of they create more of a barrier for us than the bad things, because in the bad, we remember the goal, we turn to the upper force and we ask to understand or to grasp or to change us or to... but when something good happens, we don't even think about the upper force. We go, yeah, of course, great. But on the other hand, there's no point in judging any of the good things that happen to us and limiting that, because in fact, what the upper force wants is to fulfill us. It wants us to have these good things and to feel good. The only thing is that it's trying to teach us how to accept these. And if we accept the good in order to fulfill its desire to fulfill us, not to worry about it. And even if you can't, you know, as long as you know what the goal is and you're trying to do it, if you're overwhelmed by the sweetness of some good thing, don't kick yourself. That's what nature wants to do. That's what the Creator wants to do for you. Just learn how to be like that towards the general system. And don't judge yourself unless it's for the purpose of wanting to overcome the judgments that you have of others, the resistances that you have to connection. Forget about yourself. Try to focus on that instead, because we can't accomplish anything by thinking about ourselves. That's like this is the arrow that goes to Jerusalem, and thinking about yourself, that goes to California. I hope you don't live in California. I'm sorry.
Okay, next up is Lucy Morris. Nice to see you back here with us again today, Lucy. I remember in the chat you mentioned this was just your second time attending KABU Q&A event. So please, we'd love to hear your question.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. Tony, you talk about meditation and how you just said the complete opposite of basically what I've always heard about meditation, like it's supposed to do all this good for you.
It does do good for your body.
Okay.
And it does do good for your nervous system, and it does calm you, and it does take you to a certain degree to a better kind of general perception, but it won't. It doesn't take us to adhesion with the Creator.
Even though people have talked about it as if you can have experiences through meditation to kind of get to that point, to the Creator, connection with the Creator.
Well, you do have experiences, but what are those experiences? And it becomes very difficult to talk about this. What you need to understand is that Kabbalah is a spiritual path. It's a discipline. It has things that are in it, and there are things that are not in it. It has a particular way of progressing on the path, and its path is unlike anything else. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist that way. There's a kind of an idea that somehow because it is really comprehensive, that it includes everything else. To a certain degree, it does, but there are places where it diverges because it is the meta spiritual system. So all of the roads lead to a mountain, but in order to actually get the benefits from the path of Kabbalah, one has to make a choice, and it doesn't have to come now. And but if it's really going to take a person through the whole process that Kabbalah lays out, then a person has to be committed to the path, meaning that there is a way to get there. It involves certain things and not others. And what's really most important about this, other than the details of why this or that or what this is good and this not, it's more the commitment, the depth of commitment and the depth of greatness that one feels in regard to the path. And it's impossible to climb unless the ladder is steadied in a single place. Meditation is not Kabbalah. Kabbalah is not religion. It is, what I'm saying, it is something that is different and, in my point of view, inclusive but above it. And it has something, they go to a certain point, and then there is this other gap that has to be jumped. And those things don't jump the gap. That's, you don't have to believe me. I'm just telling you how practically the path works. It takes commitment.
Okay, next we have another live question. Great to see you, Ebenezer. We'd love to hear your question. Go ahead. Ebenezer, did you still want to ask a live question?
Go ahead. I see you and I hear you. Go ahead, Ebenezer. Go ahead, ask your question. Okay, well, I don't know. There's some communication problem here. Let's go to another question then.
Okay, let's go to a question from Xiao Sambada Chico, viewing on YouTube. What is the point where we get our freedom, and how can we keep it in our life?
I don't know what you mean by freedom, but if you mean not oppressed, if you mean I can do whatever I want whenever I want, that's not the freedom that Kabbalah. That's not the meaning of the word freedom in Kabbalah. Freedom means to be at one with the law of nature. That is, not to feel constricted, restricted, and not to feel pressured and suffering because of the natural actions of existence on us. It's to understand and to be able to dance with and move with those influences and accept all of that as worthy and good, and to perceive that way. There can never be oppression in that, because everything comes from a single source, and we become part of that single source because we are aligned with it. We're in complete. It's beyond agreement. We're embracing it. We are connected with it by being connected with other people, so that we can see practically that action really occurring between us. It's not like I imagine that I'm good with the law of nature or with the Creator. I know, a person knows, because of the constant choices that are being made in relation to other people, the constant moving away from thinking about the self. And there's nothing more oppressive. There's no worse slavery than the slavery to the ego. So when a person starts to feel outside of the ego, starts to want to feel outside of the ego, that's the beginning of freedom. And the only way to feel outside of the ego is the way that we feel towards other people. That's the only place we can measure it. That's where we see whether we're aligned or not. And once you have that, you have to work to keep it. You have to protect it. You have to grow it. It has to keep it. You keep adding spheres of care onto it. I care about the people closest to me. I care about a larger scope of people. I care about people everywhere. I care about the world. I care about everything. I care about the relationship of all of the people and all of the levels of nature in relation to the force that created and governing it. More and more freedom, less and less restriction, and almost none of me. And yet we completely benefit with the bounty of all of that flows through us to everybody else. We're filled with every good thing because we become a channel for that to everybody. That's the definition of freedom in Kabbalah.
Okay, next up, Tony, we have another live question here in Zoom. I see her viewing. She's on iPhone 2. So please go ahead.
Hi, Tony. Thank you for the presentation. It's great. My question is, I'm doing a Kabbalah Revealed Part 1, and now it's week 5, and I'm listening about Bina, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, and my feeling is I'm already doing it before I start the class. Is it possible, like, for me to be, like, because I do feel that I have harder time to accept to receive something, but I always want to give something. And I also feel that I always looking for reason behind things that I get. Does it mean that I already achieved it, or does it mean that I still didn't find like where I am exactly?
It means that you are recognizing that that's part of your own inner nature. One of the really common things that happens to people when they're first exposed to Kabbalah is they go, hey, I always knew this. Maybe I couldn't put it into words, but but that's because it's describing how nature relates with us. And we recognize those processes in us because those stages of, Shorish, Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Daled, they're functions in our desire, and we are desire. We're nothing other than desire. So somebody tells you, look, this is how you're made inside, and you go, yeah, right, I go through all those things. It doesn't mean that we've attained the end result. It means that you understand that this is about you in your life, and that it's accurate about your inner structure, your heart, and what motivates you. And it tells you basically you're in the right place. There's much more to know, and these things become, not know, but to experience. These things, those patterns, they become worlds. They become complete senses of reality that is shared. It becomes real new reality for us. So it's what you have there is you have the seed, you've connected it to your own experience, and that's a very good thing. Really important, because the more that we connect everything that we hear to actual experience, then we're really progressing, and that's the whole goal.
Okay, next we're going to a question coming from YouTube, Merve Anita Kyotiki. Whom can I find to give me necessary corrections for my ego? I haven't got anyone to work with where I'm living now.
Well, you need to, you're right, you have to work with other people. You need instruction, we all do. And we need others to work with. And that's what these people who you see on the screen, that's what they're doing. They are in a course, or they're at the beginning of courses at Qabalah, which is a kind of online learning. It's kind of a university of this advanced science of nature. And you can begin working and learning there with other people. And the next you can sign up, and they'll put a link for so that you can go directly to the site, find out about it. And the next set of courses starts on July 26th. It's not just these, this particular course. There's a whole bunch of courses that bring a person from the concepts eventually to the practical work, to work with others in an advanced group, in a 10, and so on. And all you have to do is follow that link, check out the information, and in the last week of next month, you can begin studying yourself, check it out, see if it's what you want. If it is, continue. If not, I'm glad that you will be tasting it, and even that will change things for you.
Okay, next, Ian, nice to have you with us. We love to hear your question. You're up next.
Nice one, thank you. So I'll be very quick. Could you explain us, please, how it is to close the Mason?
Nah. No. If I did that, it would mess you up. And I mean that seriously. Let's just say that it's when most of the time we are thinking of and feel connected to the well-being of others before ourselves. It's represented to us in the commandment, love your friend as yourself. When that actually becomes a desire, whether we're really doing it or not, but if it exists as a desire, that's an intention. To love your friend as yourself, to identify completely, to see the other or the the integral human society, especially a Kabbalistic society first, because you have to train first. But the desire to experience that's the beginning, that's the border of Mahsam. To kind of annul the self-interest in favor of connection. We don't like that. We hate that because our nature is completely opposed to it. So all of a sudden there's something within us which is of a completely other nature, and we're starting to cross the border to exit the ego. And what does it feel like when you intensely care about, when you have, and I'm sure you've had moments like this, you care about somebody else more than you care about yourself? When that becomes a fairly steady state, that's mahsam. Now, along with that, reality feels very, very different. How it will feel to you, I can't exactly say, but know that it's the opposite. That it has to do with something opposite to our nature, and it's good. More than that, it's not good to try to describe something like that to somebody. You have to attain it. You have to get there. You have to earn it.
Okay, William, we'll unmute you, and please go ahead. You can ask your next question live. William N.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep. You sneaky guy, you came back for that third one.
No, it was just the second question, not third.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but real quick, also it comes from the great article, There's None Else Besides Him.
Yeah.
So the part where it speaks about the left line reject and the right adducts, and these are the two forces. Like sometimes the world is friendly to us, sometimes the world is not, sometimes we feel the creator, sometimes we feel ourselves. And it says, if we know how to work between within those two forces, then this is what the wisdom of Kabbalah is meant for. So basically my question is, what is those two lines and how do we work along them to reach the middle line? Like, how do we use it like on an everyday basis when I go to work, when I'm with my kids? What are those two lines and how to work with them?
You can't do it in your daily life yet. And we're not. What's being described there is an advanced step. It's like a description of how reality works for us, and when we are caught between connection and doubt or distance and so on. I can tell you this, basically, that the third line doesn't care about those two. It unifies the two through a completely different thing called love. But the definition of love is something that has to evolve. It comes through a lot of discernments, through a lot of attempts. Every attempt and every time we rise, we also fall. Then we rise higher, then we fall lower, then we rise higher, we fall lower, and eventually we see that it isn't just these two, that there is something above. These two are completely within egoistic reason. There's something else at a higher level that's called the third line. It's not like, we depict it this way, this one, and then this one in the middle, but that's not what it is. This level, the egoistic level, is made of two lines. The unifying factor is above the two, has nothing to do with egoistic reason, and it exists above them, and they all exist together without having to do away with any of it. That's why it's called love and hate, because there is no necessity to do away with any of these things in order to be in contact with the spiritual. Doing away with anything actually destroys our capability to rise. You have to have these two and the third one. But this is advanced work, and you have enough on your plate right now, because being able to even perceive left and right is something that is It's very important, and it's really the first part of the path. It takes a while to recognize when it's occurring, and to remember that this is the action of the upper light on us, and then to move between the two of them. We don't have, it's like a kid who doesn't know how to walk yet. We don't have a really good grasp of these. We're not really perceiving them. They're kind of vague to us. But that's a basic definition.
Okay, next question also is in Zoom, coming from Samuel Lima. Since the Mashiach is coming, is there any point in marrying, finding a new career, etc., or should we just keep moving on?
Mashiach is not a person. Mashiach is the state in which all of humanity becomes aware of the complete interrelatedness and starts working for the whole. Mashiach is a force that pulls us out of egoism. Moshe and limshoch in Hebrew, which is the Kabbalistic language, means to pull. It's a pulling force. So it's like actions that are coming from above that draw us into the awareness that we are a collective, that we are a single creature. And it's good, and it's going to be all about marriage in its deepest sense, because we will be united with humanity, with everyone, and these things of the heart and the responsibility towards one another and children and all that's how nature expresses on the human level how our commitment and love and acceptance of each other is expressed. But we're looking at it in the healthiest form, and as far as your job goes, that's getting sorted out now. There are so many things that we consider jobs that are a complete waste of time and are nothing but pollution and excess. We don't need to do them. You only need 10% of the population to supply all the needs of the entire world. And we don't need 1 million of everything. We are now discovering what we actually do need, what life consists of, and what you would call necessity. It's pretty simple. You will probably be engaged either in that or in some aspect of improving the quality of life for other people. That's going to be our job, to learn and to work for the quality of life. We don't need to work to live. We need to live. That's why we were created. We were created to do good to each other, not to make money. We don't need money. I mean, we do as long as there's a system that says you don't get any unless you have money. But this is all changing now, and it's going to get sorted out, what will remain and what isn't needed. So don't give up. Do all those things. You're going to be, everybody is needed. There's nobody who doesn't actually have a real job in relation to humanity, an important, irreplaceable job.
Okay, next question comes from Alan Moshkovich, watching on Facebook. Is it necessary to read Song of Songs, Talmud, and other books prior to really studying the Kabbalah? Not for the self, but for helping humanity?
Well, no, but I'm not sure the context of the question. You mentioned specifically Shir Shirim, but I don't. Song of Songs. It is a Kabbalistic song, and just like all of the Psalms are Kabbalistic. Actually, all the books that came from, through Abraham and through the teachers that came from Abraham, Moses and all of that stuff, the Talmud and all that, they're all Kabbalistic, but they're written in different languages. Languages that are either story, or they seem to talk about law, or they're legends. The whole point is to be able to feel the Kabbalistic level in them. We don't. If you didn't really feel it, and you can't penetrate through them to the root level, you don't need those things first. Go directly to the science itself in the Kabbalistic language. From there, you will understand what's really in the Bible, what's in Song of Songs, what all of those things are really talking about. Because the whole point of that is that at a certain time, people had the sensitivity. It was written for that generation, and they could get something out of it. Not everybody, but there were people who could. But as far as Kabbalah goes, everybody can understand this science. It's a kind of revealed science, which they call mystical, but it's right on the exact issue within the person, and it's a science that deals directly with it. It was hidden and clothed in these other forms. Go directly to it.
Okay, and now let's go directly to Francis. Has another live question. Go ahead, Francis.
What a segue, lady.
Yeah.
Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Yeah, thanks. This is very enlightening. I'm just wondering if you could, in a very practical way or applicable way, explain the 10 sephiroths. I don't want mental knowledge. I just want to know how one can really apply this, the very core of it. What is it about? Thank you.
The template by which human awareness is constructed is based on a quality that is called 10. Numbers are not, they're not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things. They are a quality, and the 10 implies a wholeness and a completion. And you will get to work with other people in what's called a 10, in which all of the representative forces that are in this hologram that makes up every particle of creation is made up of 10. This quality of 10, you get to work with 10 people, and to every one of them exits that sphere, which is them, their egoistic thing, and they all share the connection, the paths that run between the Sephiroth. Everybody who's in a 10 experiences everybody else as their upper 9. They're all in exactly the same situation. Everybody is Malchut. This whole world is Malchut. That is, that it has nothing of its own. It receives absolutely everything from the system. And it determines to give everything that it has to the system. It describes a correct attitude and relationship that aligns us with the way in which every part of creation is made, so that we're vibrating correctly with everything. We are agreeing with absolute everything, and we're not working with the mind. We're working with the mind of the upper one, which is what is shared between us. It is a perfect relationship with others. That's what the 10 Sephiroth is, because the Creator exists between us, and that's the best I can do. These are not objective, separate things. They are a giving attitude of annulment to the whole and for the whole that we need to reach. And there's more to it, but I can only explain that much of it right now.
Okay, we're going out there, Tony.
Yeah, I know. I recognize the siren.
You need a little bit of a heads up. Okay, same routine. It's the Blitz. Tony has 3 minutes to reach his next degree of attainment. Let me reset my stopwatch here. 3 minutes. Ready when you are.
Go.
Let's go. Why is Jacob called Israel?
Because Israel is a direct connection with the Creator, and that was the quality of Jacob.
Why should we understand the upper force is loving and giving?
Why, you having a good time now?
If I feel a calling to Israel, should I go for Qabalah?
You don't need to do that, but if you feel like going, go.
From Kate, what we think is good, is it really good?
I don't know what you think is good. I like French fries.
Is it true that you and all other volunteer Kabu instructors are performing bestowal when teaching the Kabu courses?
I hope so.
From
And yes, if we feel something is good, we are receiving good.
From Swatha, how can one realize one's soul?
By connecting with other people. The others are your soul.
From Aldo, what is the relation of the tree of life, the 125 steps, reaching and connecting to the upper force?
Because the tree of life incorporates 125 steps. It's all of the world's, I don't want to go into the math, but that it really represents the entire ladder.
It's me, Pearlie. What existed before creation?
The desire to create.
How do we get into a 10?
By going into Kabu and going to the Qabalah experience, and then the graduate environment.
Are there any signs that we are bestowing like the Creator wants us to?
No, not really. You're the one. You're the witness as to whether you are or not, and that's why it's important to know the goal, because you have to judge on the right basis.
From Sam, will more than one person attain the soul of Mashiach?
Everybody will. That's what it means.
Would Kabbalah interfere or affect in some way my religious belief?
It shouldn't. They should be able to coexist, because it's the essence of what the religion is pointing to, and religion basically is a cultural thing. If you want spirituality, you learn this science and go to church.
Does Kabbalah evolve, and does the Creator too?
The Creator is at rest. It is us who are evolving towards His quality.
Does be the change you want to see in the world, quote, come from the ego or bestowal?
It comes from a copywriter.
How can I forget or experience bad memories or events?
Think about other people.
How do we practice so as to avoid my egoistic nature completely?
Say it again.
How do we practice so as to avoid my egoistic nature completely?
You can't. You're not supposed to avoid it completely. It's a mechanism that we need in order to grow. It's part of nature. It has to be there. You just have to know how to work with it.
Tell us about telepathy.
Did you get it?
We're over. I was just waiting to hear the answer to that question. Okay, good job. You're not as far up the ladder on this one as last time, but you nailed 16.
Okay.
17.
I'll take it. Telepathy is just a highly sensitive aspect of the ego. It's part of our egoistic nature, and being able to sense what other people are thinking or feeling. It's not a spiritual thing. It is part of the five senses, but it's extreme sensitivity, and it's a real thing.
Okay, so go ahead, Tony.
I'm just saying, did you have something to say?
Just going to wrap up with announcements, unless you want to say a few words before that.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the great questions. This was fun. Maybe I had more fun than you did. I hope not. But yeah, if your questions didn't get answered and you're studying, you know what to do. You have to go to the forum, and the teachers and the people who are working with you there will answer all of that. And if you're in Kabbalah Revealed 1, I'll see you again when you go through Kabbalah Revealed 2. And I hope you continue, and I hope you got something out of this. I did. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, thanks, Tony. The next semester does start July 26. If you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, you want to sign up for the course, you can do that. Just see the links that are in the chat. We do have a pay for what you wish tuition. If you want to participate in the course tuition or simply support the spreading of the wisdom of Kabbalah, you can do that on Pay What You Wish page. Also, if you're in Kabbalah Revealed 1 and 2, you can get your course book packages with a 20% discount. You can check the links in the chat for those as well. And a very exciting announcement, we have a new Kabu upgrade. We're getting prepared and pumped up for the launch of that. It's called the new Kabu Global e-learning platform, coming out in the middle of July. There's plenty of surprises, including mind-blowing courses. Okay, this is something you can't, anything is mind-blowing, you absolutely can't miss it. that will wow you away. There's live interactive webinars, and there's a lot more that will be happening there as well. So please stay tuned for updates. Again, that starts the middle of July. We also have new live shows regarding current COVID state and the new degrees the world is transitioning to. Follow us on social media. We have tripled our content creation, so there's a lot to view there. There's many new live shows going on now with both our Qabalah.info YouTube and Facebook channel, and also with Kabbalist Dr. Michael Lightman's YouTube channel. So be sure to follow and subscribe to all of those channels and platforms. And again, thank you to our amazing tech team that pulls this whole show together, and for you for being here and opening your heart so we can really build this connection together. Thank you all.
I need you here. I'm calling for your help. I keep on searching, searching for light. My heart feels frozen in this broken piece of life. Won't you please, 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 please help me? Let's do it together. No one is ever on their own. We'll break these walls between us. Let's fill the emptiness, and we'll never be alone. We are the people. We are born to love. Love's a shining light when we unite in this crazy life. We are the people. We are born to love. Love's a shining light when we unite in this crazy life. I'll be with you. I'll be with you. Heal this broken path. We'll end the misery. We'll end the misery. I'll give you all I have. I'll be your shoulder. I'll be your shoulder. Always around. Just hold on to my hand. Just hold on to my hand. And I won't let you down. Won't you please, 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 please help me? Let's do it together, and we'll see a brand new world. We are the people. We are born to love. Love's a shining light when we unite in this crazy life. We are the people. We are born to love. Love's a shining light when we unite in this crazy life. We are the people, we are the ones who can unite anything under the sun, become exactly what we want to be, turning strangers to friends to family. I can't feel outside of myself, I need the whole world, so I'm asking for help to get out of my shell, to get out of my skin. I got my fingers crossed, cause I don't know when. We are the people. We are born to love. Such a shining light when we